strong in the Lord and in the power of his might.
Moment of Truth with Pastor Tunde Bakare, Sundays, 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
Kogi State is in the news, and this time its capital, Lokoja, has been listed as one of the fastest growing cities in the world. And Nigeria's Governors Forum says former General Babangida's commitments to patriotism and patriotism are reference points to younger generations. This is Plus Politics. I am Mary Anna Cole. The capital of Kogi State, Lokoja, has been tagged as one of the fastest growing cities in the world. This is according to a report published by the Visual Capitalist. The first on the list is Gwagwalada in Abuja at 6.46, while Lokoja, 5.93%, is at the fourth, just after Rumpanj in Bangladesh. Now, venture capitalists uses data from the United Nations to rank the top 20 fastest growing cities in the world in terms of average annual growth from 2020 to 2025. Well, joining us to discuss this is Kingsley Farnwell. He is the Kogi State Commissioner for Information and Communications. It's good to have you join us in the studio.
Thank you very much.
I mean, for any state, this would be a very auspicious day. Everybody's excited. I mean, I have people saying, really, Kogi, fastest growing? What exactly is happening in Kogi? But let's start by the fact that Kogi is in the news for a very, very positive reason.
Thank you. We've always been in the news for positive reasons. This one, it's a bit tricky. We are excited that because of the right policies, the right programs, the right projects, the city of Lokoja is now the fourth fastest growing in the world. But we also know that to sustain that, we also need the same quality of projects, programs, and policies to be able to ensure that we can cope with that kind of expanding population. So it is something that is good news, but also demands more work.
Because, you know, when we talk about fastest growing cities or big cities, cities that are growing, Lagos comes to mind first, Port Harcourt comes to mind, Abuja comes to mind, but nobody would ever think that a city like Lokoja would be in the news. But the most intriguing thing in this report, when I was looking through it, is that majority of the cities that are fast growing are African cities. We've seen cities like, even in Egypt, in fact, we see that 17 out of the 20 of the cities that were listed are on the African continent, which is a plus for Africa. And most of these cities are located in Nigeria. So it obviously means that the governors are doing something. But let's talk about the economy. I read an analysis about the fact that Nigeria's economy, we all know, is largely based on oil, even though we're trying to diversify, which has made us one of the strongest economies in Africa. But we also know that we have a high birth rate. There's a population boom of sorts, which is not necessarily a plus for us. It should be a plus for us, but it isn't. And we have almost the highest since 2015, the highest unemployment rate and underemployment rate. So let's zoom into Kogi State now. What is the government doing in terms of the youth population? We just celebrated World Youth Day, and the research that we did showed that a lot of young people are going into drugs and gambling, and that's because of the fact that an idle mind, you know what they say, is a devil's workshop. What is Kogi State government doing in terms of youth empowerment, how to engage young people, because that is the gold mine for the country?
As an administration, the present administration of the state has done a lot to empower the youth of the state. One of the areas is the ICT. We need to build a knowledge-based economy. We need to build an economy through which young people in our state will be able to do a lot to engage themselves. We are not having enough white-collar jobs anymore, so we need to create that environment, to create the platform for young people to excel. And if you say you want to take young people away from crimes and criminality, also things like internet fraud and all sort of that, you need to give them alternatives. And that's exactly what we are doing. We are currently working on what we call ICT hubs in the state, but also we are training thousands of our youth on how to conduct businesses online, and that is helping a lot of the youth. And you know, the expertise they deploy. Yeah.
What sort of businesses? Because I'm curious. When you say online business, I want to know what kind of businesses.
Okay, there are a lot of businesses that are online. For instance, we are training youth on how to help people set up websites. We are training the youth on how to sell their products online. Like if you are a furniture maker, for instance, you can take advantage of the high traffic on the internet to be able to market your product. Mm-hmm. So we've been able to do this. We've been able to train. I know that at a point, we've trained more than 100,000 youth in the state on how to do this, and they're setting up their businesses. Also, Kogi has what we call the Conference Business Directory that is helping to promote the businesses of young people on that site. It is a platform owned by the state government to be able to help young people promote their businesses. So if you are going to Kogi State, for instance, and you want to work with the best engineers, civil engineers, you just log in there.
So it's more like a Yellow Pages thing.
Yeah, so that is exactly what we are doing to be able to help empower our youth using the ICT, the power of the ICT and the explosion in how internet could help to market, to reach a larger audience around the world. Also, we've been able to empower our youth through agriculture. Agriculture is where we are going. So instead of just looking at the white-collar jobs, we are also now looking at the green-collar jobs that we can have in agriculture. And it is helping us a lot because security, peace and security have returned to the state. It is now easier for people to invest in agriculture in the state. Also because we've been able to stem the tide of crime and criminality in the state, a lot of investors are now coming into the state to invest. You have a giant one we call Unicane that is working on converting cassava into all sorts of products. So youths are being engaged in these industries. So because we've been able to
What are the processes? I'm sorry, we need to break this down because, you know, I see governments talk about these things and most times it's on paper. Oh, we're doing this and we're doing that. But in reality, when you go down to it, the farmers and the young people who are supposed to participate tell you that the process is so tough and the bottlenecks are so many, the bureaucracies can be so daunting that it's very difficult for the average young person to get access to it. How are you making sure that this is not politicized, this is not Yes, of course, government will say they have the best interest at heart, but how do you make sure that this is not taken advantage of by, the people who want to politicize the whole issue?
When you look at the administration of Alhaji Yahaya Bello, it is an administration driven by the youth. So you don't have to go through that bureaucracy to be able to access this. It is made of very young people. You have the average age of people serving in the administration to be 41. So that tells you that even the youth on the street, they can connect. They find it very difficult to connect with people in government. They could access government programs, policies, and projects. And that's what is working in the state. Before the advent of the present administration, you discover that crime and criminalities were very dominant. If you are passing through Kogi, you're always afraid of kidnapping, banditry, and all sorts of things like that. But today, those youth are gainfully engaged in productive ventures.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about security, because you've been mentioning it here and there. It's a front burner issue in Nigeria. We've been talking about it every day. It's one thing in the northwest. I mean, even down south here, we have our own problems. What is that thing that Kogi State has done? Because no foreign direct investments will come if a place is not safe and secure for businesses to be done. What does Kogi State know that the rest of the country doesn't? Maybe we all have to come to you and ask for help.
It is a multi-pronged approach to solving the security challenges that we faced when we first came into the administration, first came into the state. It was the kidnap capital of Nigeria. It was a very tough one. Banditry, religious crisis, violence, bank robberies, and all that. But what happened was we deployed practical approaches that could help solve that very serious problem. For instance, we started by ensuring that we provide logistics for security agencies. I could remember that within the first 6 months of the administration, the governor procured over 240 patrol vans for security operatives to be able to move around. It's going to be very difficult in the modern world if you want to curb criminality and your security agents are not mobile. So that was the first thing we did. The next level was to digitalize our security architecture to ensure that if you kidnap someone anywhere, through some of the technology we put in place, we could see where you are keeping them. We could see where criminals are, anywhere they are in the state, from the control room. These are some of the things that were deployed by the administration. And also, we decided to localize our security architecture. You cannot depend completely on the conventional security agents to be able to solve the problem of insecurity. So we started with our vigilante service. We dusted that law and ensured that thousands of youths were engaged as vigilante operatives to work with the conventional security agents in the state. Also, we are making use of our local hunters, and we are one of the first states to start the constabulary, the community policing in Nigeria. So all of this, when you put all of this together, it shows that we are able to comb everywhere and ensure that we are the safest state in the country today. And
in terms of the farmer header crisis, I do not know how much of that rubbed off on Kogi State, but how were you able to conquer that? Because farmers would keep telling you that they're unable to go to their farms, and that's why, and we're having a food crisis of sorts. Yeah, even the IMF has pointed to it.
I think the Kogi model would be able to help a lot of states, a good number of states in Nigeria. If we stop politicizing that issue, we will get it right.
What do you mean by if we stop politicizing? Who's politicizing it?
Okay, the point is this. When we keep complaining all the time about the activities of herdsmen and how they destroy farmlands and also disturb farming operations, then we should stop complaining and take practical steps to solve the problem. What we are doing in Kogi State, let me tell you what we are doing in Kogi State. In Kogi State, we've been living with all these Fulani people over the years. They've always been with us.
But they've been with us in every other state across the country.
It means that if some people are now criminals among them, it's easy when you work with the leadership of the Fulanis in your state. You'll be able to you'll be able to sieve out those that are criminals among them. Let me give you.
I'm sorry. I'm going to push you. No.
Let me tell you this.
I'm sorry.
No, let me tell you this.
Let's use, for example,
Yeah.
Kano State.
Okay.
Kaduna State, I beg your pardon. It seems to be a kidnap haven right now. And so they keep doing it time after time. Let's also look at Governor Zulum. You're telling me that the Governor Zulum is not working with the Fulani chiefs in his state. You're telling me that an El Rufai is not doing the same. You're telling me that all of these states that are experiencing the banditry over and over again, that they do not know that they should be liaising with these guys? Or are you saying that the Fulani men in those states are uncooperative? Which is it?
Okay, I will not be able to speak for those states. I can only speak for Kogi State. What we are doing in Kogi State is to work with the leadership of the Fulanis in the state. In every community, there are community committees dealing with security. These Fulanis are part of the committee. So if anything happens anywhere, you could bring them. They will get those who have caused that problem immediately. So it is working. When you localize your security architecture, it will work for you. So instead of complaining about what is happening, we decided to call them and say, yes, every society has criminals. Every society. It is not just the Fulanis. Every society has people who would always want to act contrary to the norm, to the order in that society. So because of that, we need to always strive to ensure that criminals, whether they are Fulanis, whether they are, regardless of the tribe they belong to, we're able to sieve them out and deal with them appropriately. So we are not covering any Fulani criminal in our state, just like we don't cover anybody that is a criminal, either you are from the state or from anywhere. So when you work with the leadership of the Fulanis, then you'll be able to achieve peace and security.
Let's talk about infrastructural development, because in the main city, which is Lokoja, the reason why we're having this conversation, we know that Nigeria is a one-city country where the states have just one city. It's very difficult to see Lagos have Lagos and Ekpe as, more cities. You always have Calabar, which is Cross River, Lokoja, which is, and so we do not have too many cities in one state, which is rare. But so this also now attracts a lot of people from the rural areas into the urban city, which also causes a population problem, housing, and all of the other problems. Of course, insecurity comes along with that. What is the government doing? Have you initiated any policies and programs to grow the main city? What is the infrastructure like? The last time I spoke to somebody about Kogi State, that was years ago, they talked about bad roads, they talked about non-payment of salaries, owing of salaries. So what is the government doing now? Because if it is the fastest growing, then there has to be certain policies and programs that have been put in place.
Thank you very much. As far as we are concerned as a state, I would even say we've concentrated efforts more on the need to develop the rural areas. I would say that 80% of our capital projects are in the rural areas. And that's why if you go to places like Ampa, you see the township road there. Kaba Township Road is ongoing. In Adavi, in Ijowa, in all those places, they are rural places. And all these projects, all these big projects are there. So, but, we know that we are going to pay a lot of price for this growing population in Lokoja. Because when you are the safest state among about 12 states that are surrounding you, then you should expect that there will be a lot of migration. And that is going to place a lot of demands and responsibility on you as a state to be able to do that. So we're expanding on our infrastructure in Lokoja. A lot of road construction work are ongoing. When people complain about the roads in Lokoja, the main place where they complain about is where we call the Ganaja Junction. If you are going to the south, southeast, southwest, you must pass through Ganaja Junction. It has always been a very big problem. But I can tell you for free that as we are speaking here, the project to put a flyover there is going on steadily, and we hope that before the end of the year, we'll be able to complete that very massive project. In terms of water supply, we're doing a lot to be able to provide enough water for the growing population of Lokoja. And also we are upscaling our medical facilities and equipment and infrastructure to be able to cope with the growing population. The specialist hospital is being upgraded as we speak. The project is ongoing. And also we are doing a lot in terms of providing schools for our children. And
I'm going to come to that. Thank you for going into that.
Okay.
But before we talk about the schools, let's talk about the health facilities. And I'm not going to be speaking from head knowledge. I have visited many hospitals across this country, and they're mostly an eyesore, especially state hospitals, general hospitals, health posts. When I was growing up, you could, for every mile you took, you would find a health post or public health post. But those things seem to have been disappearing in the country, and this is ditto for every state in the country. What is Kogi State doing about reviving those health posts? I remember, I think between 2009 and 2013, if I'm not mistaken, Cross River used to be #1 in terms of, public health. What is the public health system like in Kogi State?
Thank you very much. You are very correct with that assessment. We inherited such a public health institution in our state, but we will not complain. What we'll do is to roll the sleeves and immediately hit the ground running to ensure that we provide health care to our people. It is the responsibility of government, and right now we are doing a lot in that regard. In 2018, we did massive work on the specialist hospital, which provides medical service to a very large number of our people. But we've moved away from that. That's not enough. We need to ensure that we do not have to bring somebody from Ida to the specialist hospital in Lokoja. What we are doing right now, the Ida Zona Hospital, which has been upgraded to a specialist hospital, we've just upgraded it, and it's fully functional now.
So you're telling me that if I go to Ida now,
also if you go to Ida now,
it is up to the par of a proper specialist hospital. Because I have seen many hospitals
in terms of structure, in terms of facility.
I've seen so many commissioned hospitals that you cannot use.
In terms of equipment, it would rank with any specialist hospital.
I will come to Lokoja because I will do a follow-up on this. Everything you've said,
so
I have it on tape and I will do it.
I'll take you around so that you could see all of this.
And you're saying this on camera. I will be in Lokoja. We will do it, and I will be sure to check everything.
And also in Isonlu, in Kogi West, we are also putting the Zona hospital there. In the next 6 months, we should be able to commission that. Apart from that, in Gegu, because when you are coming to Abuja, from Lokoja, you pass through Yegu. It's a heavily trafficked road. So we are putting the same model of hospital there at Yegu. And in the next 6 months, we are doing all of this simultaneously because we released over 4 billion in January to ensure that we are able to complete all of these projects this year. And also you have the referral hospital in Okene, which is going to be, I'm not going to say the best, but one of the best in this country because of the kind of facilities that we are currently putting there. As I was sitting in here, they sent me pictures of taking delivery of the kind of ambulances, the advanced life support ambulances that we are going to be using at the hospital. So these are some of the things that we are doing to ensure that we make our people have this confidence in public health institutions. They don't have to go to private hospitals. We are developing our public health institutions to be able to deal with all kinds of health emergencies that we might have.
Let's talk about education and public education. I'm a product of public education. I went to public schools as compared to my brother, who went to private school. I went to public school. I went to a federal university, and just before I graduated, it became watered down, the whole system. And this also goes for primary and secondary education in so many states. So many states have jettisoned the upgrade of these schools. I have gone to schools where there are no roofs. I was in Kaduna State. I saw some schools that the UN is trying to help to re-roof. UNICEF, I beg your pardon. I've seen states like Rivers where there are schools that children still sit on the floor for education. And I think this happens across the country, so I don't think Kogi is left out of it. Most times you see politicians pick a few schools and refurbish them because they have an agenda. Especially your governor wants to run for president, so I'm guessing that he must have done that. What if I were to go to a totally somewhere very far away from Lokoja to take a look at your public education, your secondary and your primary schools in your rural areas? Will I see an abandoned education sector?
No, you won't see that. We inherited the education sector that was likely in shambles when we came into office. But the governor also went through public schools, right from primary school to secondary school and the university. And, you know, he perfectly understands the need to be able to ensure that our public educational institutions are in great shape. As I speak to you, we started what we call the Blue Roof Revolution in our primary schools. And if you go to any village in Kogi State today, I'm not just talking about Lokoja, I'm talking about any village, in any ward, in any local government, you will see blocks of brand new blocks of classrooms.
A few schools or every school?
Yeah.
Every school?
Every school. Go to every school. Go to any village in Lokoja. You will see the Blue Roof classrooms. We have done this so that we will make public schools attractive. That is better than most of the private schools that you have around. And also, we've been able to ensure that our teachers go through periodic training and, you know, welfare incentives that will make them to be able to deliver on the job. And apart from that, we are doing also model secondary schools. We've not been able to cover every ward in the state, but we are going at our own pace because of resources. And we are very sure that before the end of this administration, we'll be able to complete a good number of those things. Also, we've done a lot in the tertiary institutions. If you go to Kogi State Polytechnic today, let them give you pictures of how that school was in 2016. You will see a departure from the past. The Kogi State University is witnessing the same thing, and we established the Confluence University of Science and Technology to be able to provide manpower because we are the minerals capital of Nigeria. You have more than 20 mineral resources in Kogi State. So, and we know that we have a lot of these industries there. We know that the Ajakuta State Company is also there. So we need to provide manpower to be able to feed these industries. And that led to the establishment of the Confluence University of Science and Technology in Osara.
Let's talk foreign direct investments. According to reports by the National Bureau of Statistics, Ekiti, Kogi, Delta, Bayelsa, Ebonyi, Gombe, Jigawa, Oyo, Ondo, Borno, and Cross River states. In fact, 15 other state governments failed to attract foreign direct investments in 2020. Now, it means that none of these states and their governors contributed to the $23.988 billion the other states and the Federal Capital Territory attracted in 2020, a development contrary to the electoral promises that all of these governors have made. So, can you help us understand why you made this list, but then you're not attracting investments?
We're attracting investment. It takes.
But this is
no. It takes
an MBS report.
There will be another one in 2021. It's a process. It's a whole lot of process before some of these things could come into fruition. We are working on Alapa processing zone, agricultural processing zone at Alapa, and we know that within the next 1 year, it is going to be a massive one. Because it means that even all the cassava produced in Kogi, Benue will not be enough to feed the plant there. So, and they want to be converting it to ethanol. So it's a massive thing that we are.
How many more years does your governor have to be in office? Because you're saying it will.
We'll still be in office till 2024.
Exactly. So, when you say we will,
and when they are talking about 2020, have you seen the report for 2019? Have you seen the report for 2018?
Well 2019 is behind us. 2020 is just yesterday.
Unicane just came.
And we're still in the middle of 2021.
Okay, Unicane just came. It is a foreign company that is operating in Kogi State today. That will not be listed for 2020. So it doesn't mean that this administration has not been attracting foreign investment into the state. We've been doing that. This is the report for 2020.
Exactly.
And
you knew what did you do in 2020 that you did not even attract one
you knew perfectly what happened in 2020.
What happened?
The issue of COVID-19.
Oh,
how
that your state doesn't believe in, and
even
you
if you
shouldn't have
don't,
weathered your direct
even if you don't believe, even if you don't believe in it,
then you will continue
even if you don't believe in it,
so what
those that
stopped
are
it?
supposed to bring their investment, don't they believe in it? What was the traffic to Nigeria from all these foreign investors in 2020? Okay, so we can't use that. We can't use that to rate. We attracted in 2017, 2018, 2019. What happened in 2020 probably affected all of these states that you have mentioned. They've been attracting foreign direct investment.
Because we're almost running out of time. Aside from the effect of COVID-19, could this also mean that, either that necessary steps were not taken by governments to attract this investment, or could it also mean that investors saw no attraction in your state or your environment? And you've told me that your security is up to par. You've told me that your infrastructure development is #1. Your health equipment, I mean, everything you're saying is state of the art. And we really need to go there. I'm going to tell my producer we have to come to Kogi State and do some feasibility studies to be sure that everything you told us. But going forward, what is the plan of you? Because 1 minute your governor wants to run for president. How do you hope to carry on with all of these things that I can tell that are still ongoing without it being stopped? Government is a continuum, but of course we see that every government comes up with its own agenda and projects. How do you hope that you would continue this project?
Let me tell you this. Kogi is very attractive. I've told you about the mineral resources that we have, and I think early this year, the gold processing plant for the entire North Central was sited in Kogi State. So this is going to attract a lot. Also, you are talking about a state that is hosting the biggest cement factory in the entire Africa. So it's attractive, and they know that it's attractive, and they have been coming to the state. Like I said, it's just the 2020 report. We expect that this year it's going to be a lot different, and we did a lot in 2017, 2018, and also 2019. Having said that, the governor is focused, and that is why he's still doing all of these projects, despite the call on him to run for the 2023 presidency. He remains focused. As I'm talking to you, you can put a call to anybody in Kaba. The Kaba Township Road is undergoing massive reconstruction as we speak. So he remained focused, and he's going to continue to do that until his last day in office. Well, I can assure you that.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. Kingsley Fowler is the Commissioner for Information and Communication in Kogi State. Thank you very much for being our guest.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, the Nigeria Governors Forum tells us what they think about IBB's legacy as he turns a year older. We'll be right back.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
The Nigeria Governors Forum has stated that General Ibrahim Babangida and his achievements have remained a reference point to younger generations. They said this while visiting the former military president to felicitate with him on his 80th birthday. They stated that he deserved accolades considering how much he contributed to the development of the country by fighting for the unity of the nation as a soldier and a military president. Well, joining us to discuss this is Chris Mwokobia, a legal practitioner, and Biodun Shomi, a political analyst. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
I'm going to start with you, Mr. Mwokobia. The choice of words by these governors is very intriguing. When they say that the former military leader had somewhat become a reference point to younger generations, I'm wondering, is this in a good way or in a positive way? And the former president, it seems to be in the news a lot these days.
I understand that it's the week of his 80th birthday. I understand that he has granted a few interviews recently. But what I don't understand is the accolades that he's been getting lately. What I don't understand is what has suddenly changed about the persona of our former president, the first military president we've had in this country. What I don't understand is why the governors are dancing to the hilltop and telling us fantastic stories about what is not. What I don't understand is the level of praise singing that he's getting presently. The only thing I align with in the interviews he's granted recently is the fact that he has said clearly that the time for young people to take over the realms of leadership is now. The time for young people to organize and redeem our country is now. To that extent, I will agree with Babangida, but beyond that, I don't understand what the reference points to younger generation would be. We're yet to recover from what happened in 1993 as a nation. We're yet to remedy completely the ills of that annulment. We're yet to walk away from the problems that otherwise that process, that June 12th election would have solved. You know, I remember that in June 12th, we had a Muslim ticket, which obviously what it did was to say to Nigerians that though tongues and tribes may differ, though your creed and clan may differ, Nigerians can truly work in brotherhood. But unfortunately, throwing away that ticket via the annulment of that election was a major sour point in all that IBB stands for. But I want to say that no matter how much politicians and politicians attempt to rewrite history, history will stand tall. And that is why some of us are very concerned about the praise singing of IBB, the praise singing of the Maradona, the praise singing of the man the media called the evil genius. I think that what we must note here is, and I say without fear of querulous critics and without equivocation, that the time to call a spade by its name is now. Maybe he wants a good closure to his sojourn in this space, but that he can do differently.
Okay.
I disagree with politicians singing his praise.
Okay.
I think that the time has come, and we truly understand that it is youth o'clock. It is time to redeem our country, and young people can do that.
Okay.
IBB does not necessarily have to give us a lecture in that.
You actually played into my point, but let me go to Mr. Shomi. I was going to ask the question about IBB being in the news lately, the fact that politicians are paying homage to him and speaking glowingly about him. And Mr. Mwokobia has actually played into that. And I'm wondering, is he trying to rewrite history? Is he what do you think is at play here? And let's not forget, 2023 is around the corner, and he seemed to have, in one of his interviews, given somewhat of a list of the kind of politician or leader that the country deserves. And when he plays the card of, young people, it's time for young people to be in power, that's not new. Young people have heard this story over and over again. I heard it when I was a child, that I was the leader of tomorrow. Tomorrow has come and gone. I'm still not yet a leader per se in that sense. So really, what do you think is at play in terms of the former military general?
Well, it's interesting that we seem to have forgotten where we're coming from. Nigerians have very short memory. I'm not surprised politicians are pressing former President Ibrahim Babangida. Not forget, just like Chris said, his role. One major thing which I know he would always be a reference point for is that he annulled the most free, fair election in the history of Nigeria. Whether that is something to be praised for or not, I don't know. You can make up your mind on that. For the first time, when sanctions were imposed on Nigeria, Nigeria became a pariah state, was under Ibrahim Babangida, who annulled the election that led to Abacha coming into power. And Nigeria became, a pariah state. He did set the actions, the ball rolling, the actions in motion that led to that. And we should never forget that he was actually humbled out of power. He was forced out of power. I doubt whether there's much to remember that. When we started talking about huge, humongous amount of money suspected to be looted, you would never forget to mention Ibrahim Babangida. So when governors, many of whom people have their viewpoints on what they are worth in terms of their own access to public wealth, start praising IBB, then you begin to ask yourself, they say birds of the same feathers flock together. And for me, it's quite clear that is either they're looking for a dust from IBB because of the 2023 elections, the upcoming presidential elections. If it's not about that, then it's actually because they know what IBB did when it was in power, but they didn't see anything wrong with it. They probably would have done the same thing if they had been in IBB's shoes. So therefore, the electorates need to look at these politicians very well, governors very well, and know the stuff they are made of. So that's the major thing. When you look at IBB's policies, which he enunciated at that time, it was rejected by Nigerians. You will not forget Professor Sam Kuki, headed the Kuki Commission that came out with a report rejecting commercialization of the commanding heights of the economy, nationalization of the privatization of the oil industry and all that. So those are the commanding heights. His own flagship policies were rejected, economic policies rejected by Nigerians, before we eventually got rid of him from power. So I'm beginning to ask myself, what are the issues that they want us to remember Babangida, those two things they see, because the man drove us almost to the point of collapse, almost to the point of civil war. The country was badly divided due to the annulment of June 12, and the crisis went on for so long. Nigeria lost a lot of resources, a lot of money to sanctions. So I don't know what those governors are thinking about, or those politicians. Maybe they are different from what we are seeing.
Okay, let me go back to Mr. Nwokobia. It's very interesting to see again the accolades that has been given to the former president. They even talked about the fact that he fought for the country's unity. Now, Nigeria is again at a point where we're having insecurity, throw up non-state actors. And when I talk about non-state actors, we have the likes of Igboho, we have the likes of Nnamdi Kanu. We're seeing a lot of agitations from the north, from the south, from the east. And then we seem to see everybody flocking to a man that many people frowned at. In fact, like you said in your words, an evil genius. But pundits have also blamed the media for giving some form of opportunity for these people to be seen, to be heard. The fact that we keep going to these people and asking them questions and letting them speak on issues about democracy when these people were military leaders, when these people were seen to be dictators. Can we also share in the fault as a people for continuously giving an ear to people that we probably shouldn't be listening to in terms of growing our nation, especially if, as we are operating under a democracy?
Let me say very clearly that to go to anybody to seek counsel or advice perhaps may not be anathema. What I totally disagree.
Mr. Walker, can you hear me?
Agree with is coming out of such.
Can you hear us? Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, what I disagree with completely is telling us how wonderful and how awesome those who otherwise brought us to the sorry past that we experience today are. I completely agree with those who have said that, oh, this modern day, this newfound love for IBB is somewhat reprehensible. I agree with those who are saying that you cannot paint him with beautiful brush when he messed up our democracy. I agree with those who have said that we can do things better. The only thing, like I noted in my opening remark, is that he perhaps may have maradonically admitted that the time has come for a new dispensation of leaders, a new crop of leaders to emerge on our political amphitheater. He has perhaps also carefully admitted that his generation has failed us. To celebrate him.
But the question is, will they step aside and let this said generation take their position? And I'm not also advocating that power just be handed to young people, because of course that's some form of godfatherism. But I'm saying the system has one way or the other been built to lock young people out. There is some form of systemic put together a makeup that locks young people out. And really, how easy is that going to be? Young people are not just going to jump into the political scene without growing through the ranks.
Let me say clearly that in your first segment, you did speak to a young man who's a commissioner in the state of Kogi.
Yeah.
And Kogi State is a state that I am passionate about because there you have the youngest governor in our country today. And like you noted, and you saw the report, Lokoja is one of the fastest growing cities in Africa. I think that young people are beginning to rise up. I know that young people are beginning to ask strong questions. In 2011, when I was 40, I began this movement for a new dispensation in leadership. I was the youngest presidential candidate in this country in 2011. At 40, I ran for the high office of president. And that was where this call for not too young to run began. Today, there's a bill. Today, the constitutional margin for presidency has been reduced from 40 to 35. Young people are beginning to ask strong questions. In the last election, we had 40% of the presidential candidates that we had were less than 55. I think that consistently, if they continue to ask strong questions and angle and fight for leadership, we can get it. Power is never given. Power is taken. I agree that over the years, we have had successive leaders who consistently and continuously replicate themselves on the political stage. They have consistently stolen so much so they have enough money to dominate our political amphitheater. But whether we like it or not, a highly progressive world is asking strong questions. And that is why consistently we agree that the time is for the youths to take over the realms of leadership.
Okay.
And it is youth o'clock.
All right, Mr. Showmi, the last question is for you. You mentioned something earlier on that we need to watch out for these politicians. And of course, 2023 is in the radar. 2022 is, of course, campaign season, and it will soon be upon us. What should the average electorate be armed with as we get ready for campaign season?
Well, firstly, we are faced with a major security challenge, which we are all praying will be resolved soon in the country. Because when you look at the nature of it, it's so protracted. You know, on one hand, it could prove to be an existential threat, to the nation. While on the other hand, it's about ordinary criminality, crime waves going up, in the country, people feeling unsafe and all that. So on both scores, we hope the same politicians will have succeeded in resolving many of these issues before the next election. But importantly, what we need to look at is the electorate is more about people's ability, to deliver on their promises rather than being taken for granted. We need to consider, merit. We need to consider issues very important to people, a sense of belonging. It's also very important. Then the programs of the political party which they intend, to implement, particularly with growing poverty in the country, and standard of living is reducing day by day due to government increasing taxes on goods and services, and labor wages remaining stagnant. So people need to look at all these issues and ask the governors or the politicians or presidential candidates, look, what's your policy on health, on education, on environment, on housing for the poor? These are germane issues that we must always ask our politicians rather than depending on the little handouts they will give out during the campaign. We should be rejecting their points while asking them questions, rather than supporting them or supporting political parties simply because of gratifications.
Well, as we get ready for 2023 and the year before it, well, all fingers will be crossed, and we're hoping that, like you said, the right questions will be asked. Piotr Showmi is a political analyst. Chris Nwokobia is a legal practitioner. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of this conversation.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, that's it on the show tonight. I hope you enjoyed yourself. We'll be back tomorrow, Friday, and we will be bringing you the roundup for this week. I am Mary Anna Cohn. See you tomorrow.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
Most people know the common symptoms of the original COVID-19 variant, which are shortness of breath, cough, fever, sore throat, loss of taste or smell. It is important, however, to note that there are new variants of the coronavirus which are caused by mutations of the virus. The original, alpha, beta, gamma, and now the Delta variant. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, the Delta variant, also known as B.1.617.2, can spread more easily as it has mutations on the spike protein that makes it easier for it to infect human cells. This means people may be more contagious if they contract the virus and more easily spread it to others. It is 50% more contagious than the Alpha variant, which is already 50% more contagious than the original coronavirus first identified in China in 2019. Its new symptoms are headaches, runny nose, and a sore throat. Now, while the Delta variant is still being studied, there are 5 things we need to note about it. 1, it spreads really quickly. One thing that sets this variant apart from others is the speed at which it's spreading. For instance, in just a few months' time, it went from being non-existent to becoming the dominant variant in the US, India, and the United Kingdom. 2, it could cause other symptoms. Cold-like symptoms such as headache, runny nose, and a sore throat top the list in the ongoing study of the Delta variant. 3, vaccinated individuals are protected against the Delta variant. Medical experts have stated that the Delta variant is no match for the authorized vaccines as they provide a high level of protection against Delta and other variants circulating in the world. The AstraZeneca vaccine has been shown to be 60% effective at preventing infection and 92% effective at preventing hospitalization caused by the Delta variant, just to mention an instance. 4, unvaccinated people are at risk. People who have not been fully vaccinated against COVID-19 are most at risk of being infected with the Delta variant. And for the first time, kids and young people are a concern as well. A recent study from the United Kingdom showed that children and adults under 50 were 2.5 times